Listener discretion is advised. This podcast may include profanity and discussion of sensitive topics. Any opinions expressed are those of the speaker and do not reflect the opinions of any other person or entity. Welcome to episode 25 of The Real Future. I'm photographer John Nyboer, and I started this podcast to share the stories, history, and styles behind street dance, the world's largest arts movement. This conversation was recorded in Las Vegas and is the second of my first ever remote episodes. My guest today is host, MC, dancer, and Las Vegas community voice MP Art. If you want to know what's happening in Las Vegas, you want to follow Art, and that There's Nothing to Do in Vegas media channels he curates with Coco Jenkins. I met Art in LA, where he often comes out to host dance events and participate in the community. Since then, I've been to several events he's emceed in Vegas, including the legendary First Friday battles at Ninja Karaoke. And I've come to really admire his ability to keep things moving, make everyone feel welcome, and truly represent his community. It looks effortless, but that's only because he puts in the work to do it right. So when I knew I'd be in Vegas again, I made sure to invite him onto the podcast. We talked about how his Chicano, Coachella Valley roots brought him to hip-hop and shaped his views on community. And as I asked him how he carved out his unique career niche, he talked about his core values and shouted out all of those who helped him along the way. He also told me about his favorite Vegas record store. Yes. Anyway, I think you'll enjoy Art's calm, determined presence, so let's get into the real future with MP Art. Oh, and I've got to make a quick apology for the sound quality of this conversation. I had a tech glitch, aka user error, with my remote setup and did not capture the usual high-quality audio. Live and learn, I suppose, but here we go. Welcome to the real future. Arturo, MP Art, Sena, the voice of Las Vegas, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Thank you very much for being here. Like a lot of people in the dance community, we've spent quite a few hours in the same rooms, right? But I think there's a general respect, but I never really talked. So I'm looking forward to getting to know more about you and how you got involved in all this, So I appreciate you being here. I usually start real simple. What's your first dance memory?
Ooh, I was thinking about that before coming to the podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and my first dance memories, there's two parts to them.
Mm-hmm.
One is dancing with my brother and my cousins in front of our apartment complex. And then the second one was when my brother had me battle somebody when I was maybe 3 to 4 years old. So we were in Palm Springs, California. I grew up in the Coachella Valley.
Just gonna ask, yes.
Yeah, so that's where they have the Coachella Festival. So I was born in Indio, California, and my aunt lived in Palm Springs by the airport. So they had these apartment complexes, and my aunts would party there all the time because my aunt lived on the left side. My other aunt lived on the right side. So they had this, common area where they would just party and go from house to house.
Yeah.
So we'd be outside in the cars listening to the music that we like, and then my brother pushes me out there. And he's like, "Wedo, get them." They call me Wedo because I look like a white boy. And I just remember doing something and then making a bunch of noise. So that was my first memory of dancing. So I was born in '81, so you're thinking about this is 83, 84.
Yeah. Is your family all still out in Coachella Valley?
Majority of my family's out there. My sister still lives out there. My mom, my aunts. My dad recently moved to Mexico, so he moved back to Mexico. My brother, which is my older brother, is where I get my name from.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the original mystical popper. The MP stands for mystical popper. He lives out in upstate New York by Buffalo. So, but my immediate family really, really lives in the Coachella Valley still. Yeah.
Yeah. What part of did your dad move back to his hometown or?
Yeah, he was born in Mexicali,
mm-hmm.
so it's really close to Calexico and,
yes,
and that whole Imperial Valley area. So, with things with ICE and just him not being a legal resident, he just thought it was time for him to go before he got sent away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, he worked a lot of years and he didn't receive any type of Social Security, even though he paid into it and all that good stuff. So it was time to go. He has family there, so he's actually doing good. I actually recently entered a battle with his name. my boy Rampage, he's an amazing popper.
Yes.
He's been helping out this company doing these battles, and they did a full popping battle on first Friday before the Ninja Karaoke first Friday that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want to enter, but I don't want to enter as MP art because like people have this certain idea of me or like what I can do. And so I came to the event. I dressed up like how I would dress up for the after party event. Said hi to everybody, left, went and put a suit on, a different shirt, and I put a mask on, some glasses, and a different hat. And I didn't talk to anybody. I entered as Juan Miguel, which is my father's original name, before he moved to the States. He had to change his name to stay here. So even my name is not my dad's true name, and I'm a junior. So, with him being gone, it was like my way to pay respect to my father that's never gonna be in the States and never see me dance. So it was a really dope moment. And what was cool about it is a lot of people didn't know it was me. And only like my really close friends that really danced with me were like, okay, that's art. And then everybody else was like lost and they were like afraid. Like Sweet Pea was there, Armani, his son, was there, Precise, a lot of really dope poppers were there. They were just like, who's this guy? Because when they introduced
they didn't know who you were.
No, because when they introduced me as Juan Miguel from Mexicali. So it's like, I was able to represent my father and like kind of like shine light on that struggle that happens with us. I was able to tell people on the mic once I got to I made it to top 16 out of like over 40 poppers, and then I got to top 8, battled Armani, and then once I lost that battle, I was able to tell people
that's
who I was. That wasn't my real name, but why I was battling. I still didn't tell them who I was, but I just wanted to make sure like people knew that like, hey, we're human beings, we're not aliens. You know what I'm saying? Like just to put something out there for my dad and my sisters that, we definitely miss our father. So, just to put something out in the universe that represents him is really dope.
That is really dope. And I didn't even have to ask you, because I was going to ask you like what you had to say about that, but you already said it. My studio's in the Flower District right downtown, and business is like half of what it should be right there, right now. Like if you go to the garment district, because I know you come back and forth to LA a lot, and you probably know these areas. The garment district, Flower District is just like half of what it should be, and it's just like, what the fuck, man? It's not like I didn't know this side of the country existed. Like, I know it, but to see it play out like this is heartbreaking to me.
It's hard because it's like, there is that fine line of like people coming from other countries, and there's a percentage of people that aren't doing good when it comes to like selling drugs and like just being in bad predicaments. But that's not because of where the state that they're from. That's because of like the state of the world, right? But most people, I would say the higher percentage, are family people that just want to provide for their families, and it's crazy how a lot of people have this certain idea of immigrants and like an ownership of being American, when America's primarily a Latin-based, Native American-based space. Yeah. So it's like, and all these people that have like some type of discrimination towards brown people or immigrants, celebrate eating the food that we make, celebrate, having us work for them, and anytime you go get a piece of fruit, a lot of that's immigrant labor. So it's the world's a little bit messed up. And at the end of the day, it's like we just have to speak up and show our humanity and kind of like get ourselves grounded, because with the social classism that happens, a lot of people are just in this fantasy world of their status that doesn't even belong to them. It's like something that was passed down to them, or something that they inherited from this idea that's not even real.
Yes, I rarely hear anybody say the fantasy thing, but I totally agree with you. I mean, my parents from the Midwest. My dad was first generation American.
Mm-hmm.
My dad passed, my mom's still alive, both conservative people, right? Like socially, but like, they're not buying this. And so coming from that background, like to me, it's even more mystifying. It's like, yeah, like I'm a white dude with conservative Christian parents, right? Went to like conservative church in Orange County, but I didn't get that. Like my parents were going for this, and they weren't.
Everybody signs up for the same thing, or not a lot of parents.
It's just crazy.
Prescribe that to their kids, but there's like this sense of like ego that happens where like we just want to be looked at a certain way or be better than a certain way, when it's like, you know, the power of our existence is in our actions, and you know, your actions are going to be judged at the end of the day, because that's the energy that you carry, right?
Yeah.
And then what people don't understand too is that your actions and your energy are what's going to keep you supported when everything falls away, because like our age doesn't last forever.
Yeah,
so it's like, you know, like, how are you setting yourself up for the future, you know, with the people around you? If people are around you because like they need to fear you or respect you because you have money, and like once that's gone, it's like you're just really alone.
Yeah, and then I mean that's how this whole idea was sold to people, is that, well, okay, if you don't have money, we'll give people status just based on their skin color, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of keep
Exactly.
people on board. I appreciate you talking about that. I really do. And I met you, I think in LA, you came out to do events, and you've always been someone who has been really outspoken. In fact, I was really moved. I have been to one First Friday here.
Yeah, I remember you coming.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Art throws a First Friday battle at Ninja Karaoke in the Arts District, and
8 years now.
8 years. Like, I imagine that's, you know, like in LA, keeping things going here is probably, because everything's changing all the time. Everybody wants the next thing, and like that's a testament. But I remember you spoke up about women. I think it was International Women's Day. Just happened to coincide.
This is last year.
Last year. Yeah, and you were just, you know, you just got on the mic for just because you felt you should, and kind of spoke up about guys, don't be dicks. Like there's more than one body type, and it was just kind of out of, because you felt somebody should say it, and it really struck me because I rarely hear, you know, I hear people talk about these things, but to hear somebody get on the mic was super dope. So do you have any idea where you got this kind of confidence or responsibility, however you would describe it, to say the things that need to be said, and do it in like a way that can be heard?
You know, it's two parts. You know, I was raised by hip hop, you know, so my introduction to hip hop was like a lot of like NWA and Two Live Crew, which is far left from the conscious spot. But once you are in hip hop, you kind of look for people that look like you. So, you know, starting to listen to like Lighter Shaded Brown, and you go into like Cypress Hill, and then from there you kind of like grab your own taste from like things like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, just like Common, all these amazing rappers that were coming out in the 90s when I was growing up. And once I got to high school, those are the people I really like gravitated to and their message. And then fast forward to hosting. When I moved out here to Vegas, I wasn't hosting all the time. I've hosted before, but it was very like, you know, this is our event. Somebody has to do it. I'm funny.
Right.
I'm not afraid to get on the mic, but it was never like a gig. And then I would see the homie Artson, and Artson's from Style Elements crew, formerly from Rocksteady crew, one of the chapters back in the day, but right now he's rocking Style Elements crew. And he would host all the jams, and he's a native fellow, like he's a native brother, so he's Native American. And he would always drop some really good wisdom on the mic. He would always take a time to pause and get everybody grounded and let everybody know why we're gathering together and how powerful that is. So a lot of me speaking up in a like spiritual consciously comes from the rap music I listened to, and highly from artisan. And then, you know, I was raised by like strong women. So the women in my life, my grandmother, my aunts, they didn't really put up with disrespect. They always made me be conscious of respecting the women around me. And then even my partner that I run Nothing to Do LV with, she's been really instrumental in like making sure that I'm like on it when I talk and speak.
And who is that, by the way? I like to get names out.
Oh, Coco Jenkins is a musician, producer, and you know, she's like one of the leaders in Vegas culture. She really puts it on for the city, making people find their people through the website that we have and the Instagram. So yeah, Coco definitely really helped guide me, along with my Rao collective, my art collective that I run with, my boy Omeka. He's from Los Angeles as well. He's a Project Blowhead from the called Acid Rain. So they're like the first Latin group that came out of Acid Rain. Came out of Project Blow. Yeah, which is like, you know, Mike and I and Abstract, you know, all those guys from the Freestyle Fellowship. So so definitely I have like these really amazing hip hop and like real life influences that keep me in the space of like, hey, it's not all just about having fun, making people battle and selling a drink at the bar. It's like, you know, let's kind of like tap in.
You said something a second ago I want to ask you about, because you said you were raised by hip hop. The phrase "raised by hip hop" is something that's tossed around a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly in music. You know, when I started photographing street dance culture, you know, I knew something about the music because I love music. I'm a musician. Got a lot of respect for it. But I did not really understand that hip hop was an actual culture until I saw it, right? And then it's like, not that I was dismissive of it, just like I thought maybe it was something people said. Didn't really realize, oh yeah, it really is a culture with a capital C. So I'm wondering, you know, for you who came up in it, what does it really mean to be raised, like for someone who might have thought like I did or not really had any context for this? What does it mean to be raised by hip hop? You know what I mean?
You know, we're in the space of like, and it keeps on happening, right? So like we're in the space where like parents can't afford to take care of the kids. So you're gonna have the grandparents that are taking care of the kids. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have parents that aren't even available to be around because of like things like drugs or just life circumstances or, you know, just unfortunate things that happen. So a lot of us that are raised in those households have to find something to identify with, you know, and American culture is pop culture at the end of the day. So whatever's popular is what you're going to be into. And the one thing that's been really popular, especially through the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, has been hip hop because it speaks to, you know, a generation of youth, right? Yeah. So me growing up, it's like I had my grandfather playing a lot of Mexican music, Tejano music, you know, which is beautiful music that we can dance to. And then I have my uncle who's a DJ, and he's like playing all the like, you know, break beats and like freestyle music and anything that's really popular. And then my brothers all used to break, and then once he left, it's like you're stuck with like grabbing onto things. And if you're listening to hip hop music, especially the right hip hop music, it's gonna guide you in the right way. It's gonna make you awake to the ways of the world, like the lyrics do. It's gonna get you into a scenario of understanding how things are in New York, how things are in LA, in your own backyard, and you know, warn you from things that are happening. Or for some people, it glorifies, but you know, depending on where your heart is, you're gonna go towards the best thing. So like for me, it was the music, and then it was the dance. I didn't have time to go to take like, well, my parents didn't have money like that. My grandparents weren't really paying for programs and stuff, so I wasn't doing sports. You know, they're basically like, go outside, go play with your cousin, get out of here, come back before the lights are off, you know?
Yeah.
In the streets. So, you know, I would find a group of friends and we would go dance, and my cousin used to dance, so we and him used to dance. So like, it was easier to fall in love with like the hip hop movement, which is like breaking, popping, locking, DJing, graffiti, rapping, because all these things that are in the umbrella of hip hop keep you busy. You know, I was an artist growing up because my brother used to do art, my cousins used to do art as well, and then that segued into going to like graffiti art. You know, everybody likes to sing, but like when it comes to music, rapping is like a different beast than singing. So you start getting into this rap space, freestyling, and you know, like with the DJing, my uncle used to DJ, and my aunt, and then broke up. So she took all his stuff and put it at my grandma's house because he cheated on her. You know what I mean? So the ultimate diss was like, oh, I'm gonna take all your stuff and take it to my parents' house. So me and my cousin were in this most like devastated time of his life, of his parents breaking up, but we spent the whole summer DJing in my room because we had all the records. We had like the Radio Shack mixer and the two turntables, like vinyl, and the big ass speakers. So like you know, when I say hip hop raised us, it really did raise us, because it took us from focusing on not having the money, not having the clothes, not having money to do outside programs or those type of things, and it gave us something to latch onto, because at the end of the day, hip hop is free. So yeah, definitely people are very fortunate that hip hop has moved into safer spaces. But I'll say this before we stop talking about hip hop, we need to bring it back to places that are struggling. We need to bring it back to the sides of the city that don't have programs, to the Boys and Girls Clubs, to, you know, to the parks where the kids are being knuckleheads, because we all been there. Until we see it, it's available, like the energy is not going to shift in our culture. It needs to be available to the kids that don't have the parents that can take them to a dance studio. It needs to be available to the kids that are having problems at school or focusing, or that are like stuck on Instagram or TikTok, which is like, it's beautiful because it's like the information's going around the world and it's available.
That's the beauty.
But the destruction part of it is like you're stuck just watching instead of participating. So we gotta create more spaces for people to participate.
Is there any example of that that's happening here in Las Vegas that you want to shout out or highlight, or?
You know what? I gotta give props to everybody that's really putting on for the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, District Arts is amazing. Alchemy Dance Academy, Zoo Logic. They definitely have created a program that's helping the b-boying like elevate in that space. And then you have people like A-Team LV. They've been putting in work with the city a lot, with like the culture. And a lot of their members are coming back. Like Toshi just moved back to Las Vegas, and he's a LA person, because he does all these like concerts and stuff like that. Joe Styles has his dance athletics program, so he's like putting in like the physical part of being an athlete and a dancer. You know, so their whole crew has always been doing stuff, but I know that they're going to start refocusing on the.
Is the city receptive?
Yeah, the city's receptive.
That's great.
Like since Toshi's been back for the last couple months, like he's been doing some workshops. People go, and then you know you have people like Bougie Block, Brandon Bougie Block.
He's coming later today, by the way.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah, he puts on his session, and I think that's the most valuable part of what he does is the session, because you know you can put a lot of money on battles, but at the end of the day, it's like you got to create community. So like,
right.
You know, I feel like a lot of his success comes from having that session, and he's pretty consistent about doing that. So, you know, I would say those are the people that I would like highlight in doing that. But I do think we can do more. I think we can have more sessions. I think a lot of dancers can get out of their safe zone and kind of give back in that way, because we have a lot of time here in Vegas. Like, you have your shows and you have your downtime. It's like let's and
the weather's good.
Yeah, let's spend some instead of downtime. Let's spend some uptime with our people. And you know,
right.
I used to work for Clark County for a little bit, so I know how that works. So I'm putting some stuff together. I know Rampage wants to do more events with like the community. I know Toshi wants to do more events with the community. So we're actually gonna be working on that this year. So hopefully it happens sooner than later. You know.
Yeah, for sure. You've kind of got a unique role that like it's always building some kind of career in the arts within culture is always difficult. Dance is no exception. You came up as a dancer first, right?
Yes.
And I know you're still a dancer. Would you say popping is your primary foundation?
Yeah, popping's my foundational dance. It's the one style that I really fell in love with, and I felt was easy to attempt at the time. And just like, a lot of people's introduction to hip hop is going to be like two major movies. It's either going to be breaking or Beat Street. Since I'm from the West Coast, it was breaking. Mm-hmm. And the funny part is that even though it says breaking, it's mainly popping that's in that movie. So that's where a lot of the strong want to dance that way comes from.
Right.
Plus, my brother was a popper. My uncle did some popping and breaking. So like I was more gravitating towards that animation,
right.
vibe, West Coast pop rock style of dancing.
And so then, I mean, that has such a strong appeal. How did you? It's kind of interesting that you decided you want to focus. Because I remember when I met you, you were still just kind of getting into this hosting thing as a career. I remember you saying, because I just introduced myself to you, and you said something along the lines of, your goal was to be a host kind of like full time, right? You hadn't, so I think you were starting to move into that. But it's kind of an interesting perspective where you would pull back from the dance and realize, okay, I still want to stay involved in this, but what I have to offer, or what I want to really build, is this host MC part, which I think, myself included, like if I come to an event or I go anywhere, I would just think, well, that person is a good talker, has a good personality, and is comfortable on stage, and that's why. But that's you have a strategy, and you
there's more to it.
Yeah. So how did you get into this? What made you realize that was what you had to offer?
Some things like the universe brings to us, and I feel like opening my eyes to hosting was one of the things that the universe did for me. I was doing street shows with B-Boy Mosquito and B-Boy Smurf here in Las Vegas.
You mean like busking on the street?
Yeah, street shows. So we call it street shows, hitting.
Okay.
And at that time, I was watching these guys, talk to thousands of people like every week, hundreds of people at a time, and we would do 6 to 7 shows a day, and we were making in really, really good money, and it's a call and response thing, so you got to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that for a long time. I fell off a bike and I broke my collarbone, so I couldn't do the street show anymore because I couldn't dance. So I had to transition into promoting events, because one of my friends was a promoter, because they would come and see our show, and he's like, "Dog, I got you, if you can't work, I'll get you." And I'm like, okay. I started doing that with him. I couldn't enter an event, so I volunteered to judge, because I saw they didn't have judges. Mm-hmm. They put me on as a judge. They didn't have a host. They didn't organize it. So I just grabbed the clipboard, started organizing it, grabbed the mic, started hosting. And from that moment on, things changed, So this happened in 2012. So mind you, I moved to Vegas.
The collarbone injury.
Yeah, the collarbone injury is 2012. So 2009 is when I moved to Vegas.
Okay. And
it wasn't until 2012 that I actually first hosted an event. And it wasn't to be a host. It wasn't to be the judge. It wasn't to, my intention wasn't to be that person in the space. It was to help the space. And I had been hosting, and I take up anything that I can. I worked with Ronnie for the first time at District Arts because somebody didn't show up. And he saw me doing karaoke and being funny. So he's like, "Hey, would you want to do this?" And I'm like, "I'm down." And then you go fast forward to a freestyle session.
Yeah.
And I'm at a freestyle session with my partner, Coco, and Storm's there. And they're in the street dance room, and the host didn't come. I think Poppy Pete wasn't there. And he's like, I'm gonna have to host, and I'm gonna have to judge. And we all know that's a no-no. It's something that you don't do, because you can't really properly pay attention.
Yes.
And I figured that out on my own, after the second time I didn't do that anymore. But she pushes me from the back. She's like, "Go." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Go." So I'm like, yo, I'll do it. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, this is what I do for a living. He's like, here you go. And I grabbed the mic and I'm like, yo, welcome to Freestyle Session. And I just went in there and I did my thing, kept it moving. And the funny part is that like, I didn't get paid to be there. I actually paid to be at the event, to host the event. And then, you know, Cross One is hearing from people about me hosting. It was Mozzie. He's the guy that does the Top Rock. He's an amazing MC from New York. And Mozzie, like, yo, this guy Art's amazing. That's my homegirl's homie Art, because he's friends with Coco. And people know me by MP Art, so he didn't know it was me. And then he comes down to Vegas Shakedown and he's like, hey man, I just want to thank you. Cross is like, I want to thank you for helping out. You know, like I really appreciate it. You know, here, get a shirt. And then he's like, yeah, I didn't know it was you. They've been talking about you for a whole year. And then fast forward, he asked me to come and host for him. And the year that I did come host for him, he lost his voice. So I had to take the mic and host his part of the event that people are so used to. And this was with Ivan. And B-Boy Ivan is like the ultimate host of breaking events. It's like, you don't need anybody, it's just Ivan, he's good. But I was co-hosting with Ivan because there's things that Cross doesn't in the battle that Ivan doesn't do, which is like knowing the names, like having the time frame set up, and Ivan's more the energy. So when people saw me host with him, and mind you, this was live on Stance, you know, the live feed.
Shout out to Stance.
Yeah, and I was like, and I just straight up matched his energy, because I know how to do that. I know how to match the energy in the space, but at the same time, I know how to give room for the energy that needs to be honored. So people were just like, wow, you should really do this for a living. Like this, you're really good at that. And I'm like, I do this for a living.
Guess what?
And thank you. And thank you, and I will, you know? So, and that's just being ready. And the thing that keeps me great in this culture is having the intention of like helping versus being the one that needs to be seen.
Yeah, so yes, you totally pull that off. I get a little bit like, it can be a tough job, and I don't blame people for doing it, but sometimes let me hear some noise thing, get really forced and can get really repetitive, and you don't really ever have to go there in a way that feels forced. I think it's a really unique quality that you have. Like, I feel like when you're running an event that somebody's running it, first of all, right? As opposed to just being there, like you mentioned, the timing.
I'm kind of like doing both.
There's a schedule, we're going to be there for a long time. Let's keep it moving, and keep the energy going without like begging, because sometimes it's just so, hats off to you for being able to pull that off, because it is a unique thing.
I learned from the best, man. Like, all the MCs, like all the hosts before me, and definitely like, even if I'm not hosting in the space, I'm paying attention. Whether the person is amazing or the person's like average or just not good, they're all learning lessons. So like, I've spent my whole time as like a person that's participating in the culture, paying attention. And I think the reason why I do good as a host is because I don't host from a perspective of like, I'm gonna be the best host, I'm gonna be like him. It's like, no, I'm gonna do the things that are missing in the space. And I'm gonna do the things that work from the people that inspire me. So like the jokes that I say, and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. And it's because it's something that we would say. We all are in the audience being like, damn, XYZ about his shoes, they look like church shoes, I'll say that stuff. And it's like, it doesn't matter how famous you are or like, or what status you have. It's like, we're all human. We're all at the barbecue. We're all at grandma's house again. It's like, we got to treat each other like family. So that's why I'm able to lighten up the space, and people laugh and people have a really good time. I know my audience. It's like a DJ. He has to read the room, right? He has to know how to keep the energy up. So like, I'm in a chameleon. So like, I don't just host dance events. I'm working with bars. I'm working with like youth spaces. I'm working with restaurants. I'm working with like, I just got a gig with F1. I'm their official watch party host for the F1 arcade bar here in Las Vegas, which is
congratulations,
super amazing. They have over 80 simulations, great food. Like the venue is like a club, right? So they have
a watch party for when it comes here.
And it comes. F1 has like a long history, very posh, there's a lot of money in that. So they have a certain vibe that they want to have. So like I'm gonna come in there and meet their needs, but still like meet the needs of the people that are in the space. And I've been able to do that really well. And I do that with like breaking jams. I do that with like anything that I'm hosting. I just know how to read the room. So I'm not so much conscious about the commercial part. I'm more cautious about the task and the room that I'm in. So it always leads me to where I need to be. I know how to tone it down, but still be myself.
Do you like take notes? Do you watch video of yourself? Like, do you have a structured process by which you get better?
You know, I always take notes. When I say take notes, I'm taking notes before the event starts.
You came here with notes, which I love.
Of course. You know, I know like when we tell our stories, we just want to have the dates right, so that's where the notes come from for that. Mm-hmm. But as far as like when I get hired to do an event, I'm gonna take notes because I want to make sure I'm saying the names right. I know the drink specials. I definitely find out the names of the bartenders, you know, the DJ, the dancers, where they're from. You know, sometimes this stuff is not given to you as a host. You know, so there's work that's being put into it. So it's like, you know, you think about a DJ is spending time with his records before he goes to the jam. He's putting a crate together. He's putting a bundle together. You know, he's researching. You know, he's watching people during their prelims, so he knows what kind of music to play that's going to bring out the best in them. So I'm doing the same thing when it comes to like taking notes and figuring out who's in the space, so that way when I talk, it makes sense. And there's a lot of things that go wrong. You know, like somebody trips over the wire, the DJs go out, somebody spills something, just a technical
internet goes out, power outage,
fight happens, crazy things happen. Like there's delays all the time, but I know how to have so much information about the space that I can talk for 2 to 3 minutes while they're figuring it out. And it doesn't seem like, okay, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's giving us, why is he telling me that this is broken? I don't care. It's like, fix it. It's like, you know what, instead of telling you things are broken, I'm gonna tell you about the bar, I'm gonna tell you about the vendor, I'm gonna tell you about the history of the event, how amazing it is that we're here together, breathing, and taking a day off from worrying about like all the social issues that are happening in the world, and we're just dancing. Yeah. You know, so like, that's where I'm different in spaces than most people, because I don't just do dance events. And I do this every week. I have a weekly that I do. It's called Boozy Bingo. So I'm in front of people all the time and they're drinking. So I know how to navigate towards all types of energies and spirits in the space, because, you know, when you drink, you're in a spirit, right? Yeah. And the same thing when you're dancing, the same thing when you're at an event. There's this energy that you have or that you're carrying with you. So I have to navigate that and keep it light and fun the whole time, because that's my job is to move the crowd, to keep people informed. The master of ceremonies keep the party popping.
Is your first Friday at Ninja, is that the first event that you started that was yours, or did you start that, and when?
Well, you know,
about the evolution, the history of that.
I would say it's ours. You know, when I say ours, it's the communities. Now, when you come to logistics of it, it belongs to Steve and Mommy from Ninja Karaoke, and since I've been a part of it and we've grown it so much, it's ours. So now it's ran by ntdlv.com. We sponsor and host and do a lot of like the background things to make it successful. We just started our YouTube, so that's nothing to do. I'll be on the YouTube for all the battles. Now you can see them, because it's hard to have a consistent videographer every month when the event's a very community event, and it's not a very money-making event. Yes. So that event was put together by Steve. He was doing it by himself, hosting and working the bar and doing all the things managers do. And I was just like, yo, bro, like, I got you. He's like, wow, this is our first year. And I'm like, I'm not talking about money. I'm saying, if you need help, I have you. Like, I got you. I'm going to be here anyway. Oh, so you didn't start it per se, but you've been there pretty much. Yeah, basically the first day it started was in November, 8 years ago. And then I started the next month, which is in December, and I've been doing it ever since. Okay. So, and we built it to be the biggest all-style freestyle dance battle that happens in the world, because it happens consistently every month, and it brings the world's best dancers there. Frantic has been there, King Havoc has been there, Schizo has been there. The Twins, when they come in town, Laurent enters the battle, even though he's on stage just making tons of money, and the battle category only gives you $100. It's like we have some of the most dedicated and real people that come into our space and will enter these battles or judge without worrying about money. So like the energy that I have about helping my brothers and my family in the space, I feel like that energy is contagious to our community, and they're always down to work with us because there's an honesty to it. Plus, there's no other places that are 21 and up that have that vibe for an all-style battle because they're all ages. We're the only one that happens in probably the United States consistently that's 21 and up. You know, and before COVID, like we would have months where it would be slow because it's cold or whatever. But after COVID, it's like people want to be outside, people want to feel energy, and we're packed every single time.
Yeah, well, the time I came, it was April, and it was more normal weather, and it was like 40 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And none of the LA people were ready for that. I was like,
oh, they weren't ready to party until 2 in the morning either. They're complaining, like, low key. They're just like, I can't believe this goes until this long, and it's like, Vegas is a different, it's so unique to the whole world when it comes to everything in industry. You know, we're kind of trendsetters, and then we're kind of like, we kind of move in our own way because a lot of the people that live here work industry, so we have to wait for them to get off the shows to even go to the event. So like it works a little bit better for us to have like a night lifestyle battle, and they even do that with like, you know, since I've been doing Ninja Karaoke, like other events have been starting later and going into like 1 or 2, not because they're late, it's because they start later. Yeah. Because they understand, hey, we want the industry dancers to be able to come and enjoy this as much as the people coming from out of town. Yeah. So yeah, if you come to Vegas, definitely be ready to get down until the sun comes up. Yeah, this pretty much here in New York, really only American cities where you have this kind of 24-hour culture. Here it plays out differently, but it's still like you can go get Chinese food at 3 in the morning here, right? Yeah. I love what you said about the best dancers come to community events, because I think that's one of the most remarkable things about this culture is that, you know, I'm still kind of blown away that, because as you know, I go to a lot of events, or as many as I can, and I'm still blown away that I'm like 50 feet from some of the greatest dancers in the world. And I mean, you and I know that, you know, calling them street dancers is just a descriptor. It's not like a less than or greater than thing, right? And like when you see this, you're like, holy shit, I'm seeing this, like they're right there doing this, and it's intimate, and like you can yell, you can cheer for them, and yeah, like street dance, you know, a lot of people think like back in the day, street dance, it was like a bad term, you know. It's still like, oh, you're street. It's still but when it comes to the culture, we embrace it because it gives an identity of how real we are and the struggle that we come from. So yeah, LeRon is going to be considered one of the best dancers in the world, the most professional, most like, you know, has the most achievements, him and his brother, because of the stages that they be in and like the pieces that they do. You're talking about Les Twins, right? Yeah. So LeRon is a street dancer through and through. At the end of the day, he'll honor that badge, but still be in a space with Jay-Z and Beyonce and whatever music director, because he knows where he comes from, so he's never gonna ignore that, which is really beautiful. The same thing with every other dancer that comes from the streets that does anything in the Hollywood space or that makes money or travels around the world. You know, like Pete definitely shows up whenever he can. You know, he gets down with people whenever he can. And like they're at the status where they don't have to. You know, Mr. Freeze comes to our event. This is like one of the most iconic dancers from Flashdance, like the first viral music dance movie that got people in before breaking and before, you know, like Beat Street was really famous at the time. Yeah. So those people still come to these events. So it shows you the power of like street dance has a power to it and has an honor and respect to it. So yeah, definitely, it doesn't really matter to the real. The real are always going to show up. You take away the sponsorship, you take away the money, people are still going to dance. Yeah. We're still going to connect with each other. DJs are still going to DJ. So like, stop being afraid and if you see something that's not happening in the industry that you want to happen, make it happen. You know, YouTube is amazing. TikTok is amazing. We're in control of our narratives. So like, be the thing that's missing in the space and create your own network.
Goes back to that. You said that earlier.
Yes.
That's kind of your MO.
Yeah.
Be the thing that's missing.
Yes.
Very much like that. The only other person I talked to who said that, you know, Kose?
Yeah.
So I asked her, because she's such an interesting dancer, right? And I was like, what is, this is, it's just a tangent, but just because she said the same thing in different contexts, I was like, what is your approach? Because you bring such a unique energy to battles. Like, and she goes, I just come in and I watch, and I look for what's not there. And I was like, oh, that explains a lot why her storytelling is so unique, and why it always is just kind of just, you're like, oh, this is nothing. And it's not just the way she moves, it's like there's something else going on there, and I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's how it goes, man. Like spending time with Robozilla at Function and Forum in Texas. Shout out to Aaron DeFunk with that event. I took his workshop, and it's like just to get into the mindset that he has with developing his animation, the history that he has. Yeah. And you know, a lot of people might see the animation but forget that even just being a character of the animation is a story, you know, because he's like trying to function in this real life scenario as this other thing, and you just see him. That was good. I got vibes. Yeah, because you see him, he's like really like coming to life. So even coming to life a story, and then with Kuse, like the amazing things that she does, because her timing is different and her storytelling is different, and he's more like battle driven with his animation. It's just beautiful, bro. Like I think they both coexist in the same space.
I agree too. I was kind of curious about your approach, because
my approach is definitely gonna be character and storytelling. Like I'm really big. Like one of the things that I like to do a lot is like I have this box. I open this box and I grab things out of it and I throw them, things I don't need, and I find something that I like and I play with it and I catch it and I throw it and it moves me over here and I grab it again. I get a slinky, I grab a bell, you know what I mean? Like just really like bringing people to pay more attention. Kind of like a
frantic approach almost.
Yeah, making people pay attention to things that aren't like a realness of objects and like things that aren't there, like, and they're just like going with you. They're just looking and they're moving with you. That's why hands are so amazing, because once your hand goes over here and you look and you give direction, people move with you. So dance doesn't always have to be this full body thing. It could be, you know, directing attention to stuff and just having weight with your move. Like if you believe it, they're gonna believe it. So that's where the confidence comes in, right? Yeah, for sure. The confidence is going to come from your foundation. It's going to come from like spending time with your dance. So
the part you don't have to think about.
Yeah. So kudos to people like Papi John and like
oh my God, yeah.
All these great animators. You know, I did a video with Flattop, and it didn't show, but I was like low key nervous. He's like, keep going, and then he did his thing and he danced for my brother and his wife and my niece that were visiting from New York, and it was such an amazing moment, you know, because it's like his storytelling is crazy and his animation is crazy, and it's like some dancers really help you be with them, you know, and that's what's beautiful, is that we get to get brought in and we get to live through a visual embodiment of your soul. Like when somebody's really locked in, you kind of transform into their body. You're embodied by them, and you're going through the moves and you're feeling the weight, and it's a really great, beautiful escape, like better than anything in the world to watch. Was Flattop someone you knew well before you did the video? Or? You know, we watched videos like B-Boy Summit, and we watched videos like Radiotron, and you know I think he was on the Radiotron video, and we watched that video like in and out until the tape burst. You know what I mean? So like, I knew him through his dance. Okay. And then I met him in Venice Beach years ago, and then from there I would see him here and there. So like, there's an energy that dancers have with each other. So when you see him again and you talk to him, he understands. He's like, okay, I've inspired you. You know me, and I know you because of your excitement of knowing me and loving this dance. So he treats you like he's known you forever. He's really beautiful about that.
I have seen, well, if you see him on Hollywood Boulevard,
Yeah.
the way he interacts with people is really beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've seen him teach. You know, he's come to Yaya's Unimate,
Oh, look.
and I saw him teach, and he got called in. Somebody canceled, or they got stuck somewhere, like a travel problem,
Mm-hmm.
and she called him at the last minute. Comes in there, obviously he knows how to work a group,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what he does. There was this one guy there, and he was from, I think he was from China, and he was really uncomfortable. And Flattop like brought this guy out of his shell and hugged him and just let him know that what he was doing was beautiful. And I just started crying, man.
Oh, that's
Because
crazy.
that guy cares about every single person that he touches, like really cares. And I don't know him super well, but I have, because I've been, he's been to a lot of events in LA that I've been at, and I've taken the time to talk to him. And as a non-dancer, just about life and about his approach, and like telling him when I see him work with you, like what he's just like, this is what it's all about, like straight up. And I'm sure you got that from him, but when you said you were intimidated, I was thinking, oh yeah, well then you probably quickly found out that he is all about not being intimidating, or he's about like bringing out.
It's just when you're standing next to somebody that's so amazing.
Yes.
Like, of course you do it, and then your brain starts going, oh wow, wait, he's watching me. I'm doing okay. And then
But some people like to maintain that, right?
But like I said, but when he said, he's like, keep going, I was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it wasn't something that I was prepared to do that day. It was more or less like, hey, meet my brother. He's the original Mystic Popper. I would like to see your show. We gave him some money, whatever. And he's like, no, you get down first. And I was like, okay, okay, OG, I ain't gonna say no. I've been ready,
But he really, like, some people will do that and almost as a way to maintain their OG-ness, or their kind of like wait a little bit, right? Where he really wants to see you get down.
Yeah, because he knows me because of the world that I'm in.
Yeah.
And he's like, you dance too. And he was like, now we're together. You know what I mean? Like, now we're doing this together. That's how I felt when I said yes. But then that little kid in me was like, oh my God, OG wants me to dance with him. I'm doing this right now. And he snapped me out of it. Keep going. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm good. Yeah, so like his energy is really good. I remember, because like when I talk to people, I talk to them with dance and like, oh, when you did this and that. And I remember seeing him, he was out here in Fremont, and I was like, bro, like when you were doing this and boom, boom, to the breakdown, he's like, bro, I feel so good. I never watched myself dance before through another person. I was like, that's amazing. He's definitely like, he definitely gave me my flowers, just talking to him, and he didn't even see me dance all the way yet. So it was like, he's such an amazing person to see. If you ever on Hollywood Boulevard and by the Chinese theater, you definitely want to throw pull like a $5 out of your wallet and just give him the rest. You know what I mean? Like it's only paper. Like he's an OG. If you're a dancer and you're down there, take your family to go see him. Definitely a great show.
Amen to that. Yeah. I was reading. You sent me an interview just to give some background, and you mentioned that one of your goals for this year is to put out a book and to have a program or teaching curriculum for being an MC or host. Is that?
Yeah. Let's get into that.
Is that right? Because which ties back to earlier. I was like, this isn't just an accident that you do this.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
Yeah. All these years of experience that I have, I see where my strengths are from my trial and error. So I want to take all that information and be able to create lessons, tutorials on how to host. Definitely want to get a book and kind of like break down all the different areas of hosting and the things that you need, from your voice control to mic control to understanding of like getting notes, reading the room, all these amazing things that we do. And since I work in so many different spaces, I have a lot of people to pull from. So I started gathering information last year, and I'm still doing it this year. So I'll meet up with like different event hosts, and I ask them what their three key components to hosting are, and they'll give me those. I ask them about like who are the people that are influential to them, and then I ask them what they like about what I do, so that way I can really pinpoint where I'm being effective in the space.
Yeah.
But the information that I want to put out there needs to come not just from me, it needs to come from us, right? So it has to be what's important to everybody as a host. And luckily, I've had some amazing people that have done my testimonials, which is, my first one was Joe Coy.
Not bad.
And he's an MC host from back in the day that used to do jams. And now he's like one of the most famous comedians in the world.
Yes.
So to have him like kick it off was amazing. And then I had B-Boy Ivan, Cross One. I recently was in Houston, Texas, and did one with Alien S. So, and then he told me I was his inspiration for hosting. And that was like, wow, like just to get those flowers and not even ask for it was like super amazing. So, gathering all this information is really dope. And I'm looking to create the next version of MP art with somebody unlocking their version of whatever they need to be in the space, but having the keys so they don't have to worry about all the things that I went through, like, because it's hard to navigate in this world, like when it comes to money, when it comes to commercial, when it comes to like micro racism in spaces, being professional, understanding that talent doesn't always win, but consistency does, especially when it comes to growth. So if you're consistently growing, people are going to consistently grow with you. If you're consistently not showing up, people are not going to show up for you. So like getting those things across in the book are huge key successes to being a professional host, whether you're going to do a dance event, whether you're going to do a birthday party, a Super Bowl party, a boxing match. Anything that I've done is going to be available for anybody that wants to pick up a mic, because at the end of the day, it's public speaking too. So,
very much.
I feel like there's going to be a big market for it. I feel like running into different people in the culture that really gravitate towards my energy and have expressed that they want to host. This will be a good guideline for that. So,
do you live this 24/7, or is there something else? Like, do you still draw?
I'm an artist at the end of the day. I went to school and college for fine arts and stuff like that. So,
as a painter, what was the
all mediums, like
all mediums,
everything. Okay. Yeah. So like I went to college for that, studied art history, and then once I moved to Vegas, I was going to start going to school again, but then I just fell into this really amazing pocket with like hosting events.
Yeah.
And I've kind of like created a lane for myself. And what's great about that is that a lot of events don't have good flyers, so I'll create the flyers for them. So all the Ninja Karaoke flyers I do, and some like
has the date and time on it.
Yeah.
The location.
Yeah. Exactly. All the information. And
you see a lot of flyers that lack information. Yeah. It's like, come on.
And then I talked to like Ronnie from Full Force. What people don't know is that like he reached out to me and was like, yo, I need a flyer for the anniversary and this and this and that. Do you know who makes the Ninja Karaoke flyers? And mind you, I've worked with him for years. And I'm like, me? Why didn't you tell me? I would have been having you make flyers like forever, like a long time ago. I'm like, I'm not doing it to make the money. I'm doing it to make sure that it looks good and like we look good in the space, how about? And he's like, well, I want the same type of flyer for my spot. And, we've been at the Ahern for the last 3 years with their anniversary. And I've done all 3 of the flyers. I've done all the graphics that were on the billboards. Yeah. And then if you've ever been to the Ahern, they have this really unique billboard border that's on top of the building that is like a ramp, kind of triangles down on each side. So it's a huge wrap. So I had to figure out all the mechanics of how to make that work. and I do video flyers, so things are moving in the flyers. So like, you know, I've as much as I have had success in my hosting, doing big events, I've probably done like really big campaigns with them, and I helped design the T-shirts with them as well.
I'm glad I asked about that because I had no idea.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just always interesting to know. Like, I always see you with the dance events, and then you know, I know this to some extent you have to live it. But I was kind of like, well, what when you're not doing this? What?
Yeah, man, I DJ too.
You do?
Yeah, people don't know this. Like I said, with my uncle, like his stuff got taken away, got brought to our house, and me and my cousin are like, let's do this. We're DJing, you know, and it's an expensive hobby. So one of the things that I have done to reward myself from all the things that I've done in my career is actually buy DJ equipment. So I have like the Technique 1200s. I have a really nice mixer. I collect records.
Would you DJ all vinyl?
Yes, all vinyl. Yeah, that's what I do. I collect 45s a lot. My major collection is going to be, of course, funk, electro funk, and I'm a big lover of like Southern soul and oldies. You know, like a lot of the Art Laboe kind of style of oldies, like Chicano style oldies. So I collect that, and definitely, you know, all the hip hop albums that have inspired me in my life, I'll collect those and find rare cuts and things like that. So, and then I love scratching. So like I have like a teaser video where I'm scratching a little bit, and then I start talking about an event that we're doing. and it's like it took me like a long time to get that little cut down right before I started talking, but I love scratching. And at the end of the day, it's like I just love hip hop, man.
What's your favorite? The nephew I was here with for the birthday, he likes records, so I was going to take him to 11th Street, but they were closed because it was Monday. What's your favorite record store around here? I collect records.
I just found a new record spot, and it's been here for years. Record City, and it's right down the street.
I just drove by it
right down the street
2 days ago.
Right down the street. You can walk there from here because you're staying at right. It's right.
Yeah.
It's walking distance from here. It's right on the corner on the other side.
I drove by and I was like
Starbucks. And I'm telling you, bro, like that place is amazing. The people who run it are dope. They're very welcoming. You're not gonna get that the comic guy from the Homer Simpsons like this is the rear.
I didn't have it right.
Like 1975 edition. You know what I mean? Like they're just, oh, you love records? We love that you're here. You know.
When you moved here, how long did it take you to figure out like that this is a real city? You know what I mean? Because it's so easy to think of it as just this thing that's like only a small part of it.
This is a good segue into Nothing to Do Out Me. So let's I moved here, and I feel like for what I do as a dancer, it really took me a good year to kind of like settle in out of the fantasy of what Vegas is, because as a dancer you get, oh, come over here to this club, come over here to this club, come on, this after hours is spot, and you're just like, I was going home when the sun was coming up, and mind you, Vegas has some of the best sunrises, but you know, like it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
You know, so most people it's like a 6-month venture that you have. For women or like entertainers, you can get sucked in for a whole year of like this fantasy. But once you meet people in local spaces like First Friday, shout out to the Get Back that used to go on for many years by John Doe and all his people like Four Eyes, like that really kept it going. Those places kind of get you grounded into the culture here. So you got to look for people that live here and that have 2 feet down to the ground, you know. And you know, Coco Jenkins, she's somebody that has been super influential for me in this city, because she was the only female that was out there promoting her own rap shows, going to everybody else's shows, going to dance events, punk events, rock, heavy metal, you know, jazz, within one night. And then I would see her at the event that I was at. I'm like, where were you at? I was at, I'm like, you went to all these places? She's like, yeah, I just know the set list, and you know, I saw who I wanted to see, but I definitely wanted to dance at the end of the night. And then I would be in the place where she would want to dance, you know? And then she started this webpage, There's Nothing to Do in Vegas. It was just a calendar. And then I made the Instagram for her on the phone. So I'm like, because she didn't have a phone, so I gave her the phone. and now she has a phone with that had like social media and stuff like that, a smartphone.
Yeah.
And we've been building that page together, and now you have a source to find culture here in Vegas. So once you get over the lights at night, you're gonna have to see the sun. You're gonna have to take in the energy of the people that live and breathe here and that make this city happen. So that page is really beautiful because our website, ntdlv.com, connects you with culture that's not only meant for one style of genre, it's like all genres. Anything from, if you're a foodie person, if you're into goth, if you're into lowrider shows, classic cars, if you're looking for, fashion events, open mics, to know what concerts happening. We're actually doing a brunch once a month on a Saturday at Limelight. So like now we have places for dancers and people to go that just don't want to have to worry about the strip sometimes. Or, if somebody's playing on the strip that's amazing, we highlight that too. So with Vegas, it definitely takes you a minute, but you have to connect with the real people that live here, that are into more than the consumerism part, more about the culture.
Yeah. That's that in common with LA. It's just more here. It's more concentrated.
Yeah,
because it's not as big. But
I love Los Angeles. I love the energy that comes out of there, the struggle that comes out of there, all the things that they've built for the culture that I thrive on and I live on. And I can't even get off this podcast without shouting out the Great One-Eighters and all the beautiful things that they do.
Yeah,
Rock Swift and
Devious.
Pierre and Devious. Even though they're like younger than me, they've done so much with their program, and I've always enjoyed like supporting it. And I'm even sad now that I'm like busy to go because I'm working my own events like with F1 but I always shout them out and hopefully this year we're gonna probably do like a takeover or a qualifier here in Las Vegas. So and we've done that before, so like definitely trying to do that again. Yeah, so I just want to give a big shout out to Los Angeles, Great One-Eighters, all the people that do stuff out there. Asia One, San Diego with Cross One, all these amazing people that like just really pour into the culture. Versatile, of course, Versatile, Breezely, Precise, Miss Funk, and I think the last one I would have to say is my boy Robbie from Beat Swap Meet. That's another one too. And I've been around them when they first started all these things, and to see where they've gone is super inspiring. And we're I'm definitely a person that's taken notes and tried to create something unique like that here. And I think we have done that. And now it's time to cross-pollinate. Like I would love to see more events from Los Angeles, have qualifiers out here in Las Vegas, and offer our city like some inspiration that can't make it to over there.
Yeah. I would love to see that too.
Yeah.
And we'll be keeping an eye out for it.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, yeah.
Nice. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. This was really great. Again, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I've definitely talked about everything I want to talk about.
I think
that seemed like a good closing point.
Yeah, man, it was really glad to be here. Thank you for thinking of me and
of course
allowing me to be vocal on my story and like things that I think about. And I think Los Angeles and the dance scene is really really lucky to have you to not only capture the pictures that you do, but like to capture these stories and like and show the humanity behind what we do.
I really appreciate that. That is the goal of this, right? Like, I was, at a certain point, I was like, what else can I do with these relationships? And this is it. So, thank you. I guess I've done what I set out to do in that regard. I appreciate it. Wow.
That was good, man.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching and or listening to The Real Future, a Nyboer photography production. Video is available on YouTube and Spotify, and audio only is available at just about every other podcast outlet, including Apple, iHeartMedia, and Pocket Cast. The Real Future is dedicated to the Los Angeles street dance community and the culture as a whole. Keep moving and join me for the next episode.